Good morning, everyone. February 3rd, 2022. We are here on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, live. And if you're wondering whether you should apply together with your family before you come or after you come, whether it's a visitor visa, international student study permit, or a work permit, we're going to cover this in today's video. I'm joined here with Laura from Colombia. How are you, Laura?
I'm fine, and here you. Hi, everyone.
Perfect. So this is the subject and theme of today's video. If you're wondering, should I apply with my family before I come into Canada as a student, worker, or even a visitor, this video is for you. We're going to look at the main questions and answer them and clarify to you what the risks are, what the advantages are, and based on your country of residence, what you should consider, right? And then right after, we're going to jump into our question answer period, and we'll be answering the questions live from our YouTube viewers. Here we go. Laura, are you ready? And we're going to have a bilingual session today, both in English and Spanish, right?
Yeah, actually, I want to explain the topic that we are going to talk about today with our Spanish viewers.
Perfect.
Hola a todas las personas de habla hispana. Hoy, 3 de febrero, pues por la mañana, el tema que vamos a estar viendo y del que vamos a estar hablando es si puedo llevar a mi familia a Canadá conmigo, ya sea por medio de los estudios, trabajo o negocios. Entonces vamos a estar hablando de qué países de nacionalidades se tienen que considerar y pues también la elegibilidad para ver si se aplica toda la familia o no.
Perfect, thanks Laura. So let's look at, should you apply from your country, basically I'm going to repeat, should you apply together from your country of residence or apply after the main applicant arrives to Canada as a student or worker? And that is the very important question. So you have a study permit that you're applying for or have been approved, and you're wondering, well, my spouse, my partner, my children. Well, it depends. If you want to be 100% safe, typically you don't apply together. However, if you already have valid US visas, you already have very good travel history, or you're from a visa exempt country like Mexico, Chile, Europe, US, for example, then it doesn't matter. Like, it's easy. However, if you're from India, Middle East, Africa, or other countries, you have to be careful. If you're coming in at applying as an international student and then you have 3 children and a spouse or partner and you're applying all together, be careful. Proceed with caution. Right, Laura? We'll do that in Spanish and then we'll move on.
Yeah, right. Entonces, un poco para empezar a hablar acerca de si se puede llevar a la familia a Canadá con uno una vez se viaja a Canadá, lo que nosotros solemos aconsejar es que es mejor aplicar solo, porque es muchísimo más seguro hacer una aplicación solo y no con toda la familia. Pero si la persona o la familia tiene la visa americana o es un país exento como de tener una visa como México o Chile, sí se podría ir perfectamente toda la familia. Ya hay países que son más complicados, como lo son India, en donde aplicar toda la familia no es aconsejable y es muchísimo mejor aplicar solo. Entonces depende de la nacionalidad, de si se tiene la visa americana o si son países exentos de visa.
Perfect, thank you, Laura. And the main question is spousal open work permits. This is what many people are looking at, and they're wondering, well, I'm coming here as an international student, or I'm coming here as an international full-time worker. Should my spouse or partner apply for a spousal open work permit from before I arrive to Canada or after I arrive to Canada? In many cases, it's possible that your spouse or partner will apply for the spousal open work permit together when you're applying for a study permit. But if you're from a high refusal country, Nigeria, other African countries, maybe Middle East, proceed with caution. we do not advise to do that until the international student arrives to Canada, begins their academic program, and afterwards you can apply for them from overseas. But if you're from countries in Latin America or Europe or other regions which are not high refusal, then of course you can apply together. But remember, there should be enough funds and ties to your home country to prove that potentially you can return to your home country, right? So there's a risk reward. The risk is refusal for certain nationalities. The reward is you get to come together to Canada. But remember this, and we'll touch on this point right after. This is the most important point. So Laura, you can explain in Spanish, and then we'll cover something that is very important to consider when you're doing a spousal open work.
Sure. Okay. Ya enfocándonos todavía en lo mismo de cómo traer o si se puede llevar a la familia a Canadá, estamos hablando y les estaba hablando acerca del permiso de trabajo para pareja. Entonces, en este caso, muchas personas se preguntan si es mejor aplicar juntos, si una persona va a ir a estudiar, que la otra persona aplique para el permiso de trabajo de pareja. Si es mejor eso o si es mejor que la persona que tiene el permiso de estudio vaya a Canadá y luego de que esté en Canadá y empiece sus estudios se aplique por el permiso de trabajo para la pareja. Eso ya depende. En la mayoría de casos, o en algunos casos se suelen aplicar juntos, pero hay una precaución si es un país que tiene una alta tasa de rechazo de visas, entonces lo más probable o lo mejor es aplicar separados. Y también, si se van a aplicar juntos, se tiene que demostrar que se tienen suficientes vínculos con el país de residencia, en el país en donde se están viviendo. ¿Cuál es el riesgo si se aplican juntos? El rechazo. O sea, hay más probabilidades de rechazo. Y la recompensa es que igualmente, en caso de que no se realice el rechazo, van a poder irse juntos pues, a Canadá.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. So the most important point, if you're doing an English program and not an academic program, you cannot apply for a spousal open work permit, especially from overseas before you arrive. So if you're going through a pathway program for college or university, or just coming here to study language, whether English or French, you do not meet the eligibility to apply for a work permit for your partner or spouse. So that's an extremely important point, and Laura will also explain that in Spanish.
Sure, of course. Algo importante que se tiene que tener en cuenta es que muchas veces no todas las personas pueden aplicar un permiso de trabajo abierto para pareja. ¿Cuándo no se puede aplicar esos permisos? Cuando la pareja está estudiando es un programa de inglés, un curso de inglés o un pathway. Estos no son elegibles si se quiere ir con la pareja y que la pareja tenga ese permiso. Entonces, más que todo son para college o universidades que sí se puede aplicar para el permiso de trabajo, pero para programas de inglés o pathways no.
Perfect, thank you, Laura. So let's say you are an international worker who has a job offer and planning to come to Canada, right? Do you apply together with your family? If it's a PNP or a PR stream, yes. But if it's not, then it's up to you. Do you come here, maybe get one or two pay slips, and then apply for your family, right? So remember that if you're coming here temporarily, not through a PR stream, depending on your nationality, your residence, and your family composition and ties to your home country, you have to consider and weigh the differences, advantage, disadvantage. But if you are coming here with a PNP, provincial nominee program, or a federal program for PR, at first as a PR but with a work permit that will lead to a PR, whether it's under process or eventual, then you can apply together as a family. Your risk of refusals is significantly less unless there's some kind of criminality or medical issue or ineligibility. So this is an extremely important point to also consider if you're coming here as an international worker. We'll cover that. We'll cover some additional points right after Laura explains this also in Spanish.
Okay. También otro aspecto que se tiene que considerar es si se está aplicando por medio de una residencia temporal o por medio de la residencia permanente. Si es por medio de la residencia temporal, es mucho más riesgoso aplicar toda la familia, y si se llegara a aplicar toda la familia, se tendría que demostrar lo que había dicho anteriormente, los vínculos, buena capacidad financiera, etcétera, etcétera. Pero si es con la residencia permanente, sí se pueden aplicar juntos y ya el riesgo es mucho menor, muchísimo menor. Entonces también depende de a qué tipo de residencia quieren aplicar.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. And this is also obviously a very important point regarding international workers and applying together. If you arrive to Canada alone, before you apply for your family members, if they're coming later, you will need pay slips. In Canada, many employers pay every 2 weeks, bi-weekly. So take 2 pay slips, get an employment reference letter, and apply for your family, maybe your spouse or partner, to come in. As I said, you don't have to wait to come in. It really depends on case by case, your nationality and residence. And I know we're not supposed to discriminate, but that's a standard. That's like the national anthem of the IRCC with every embassy. It has to be discrimination based on your residence, nationality, age, ties to your home country, financials, and travel history. That is discrimination, but that's standard because every country does that. So be careful when you're applying together versus applying separately after the principal applicant has arrived to Canada. And we'll cover that in Spanish, and then we'll cover the main discussion about spousal open work permits, the processing times that a lot of people are asking. We'll talk about visitor visas, and we'll also talk about what the advantages are of getting a spousal open work permit or having your dependents or children come here while you're studying or working.
Ok. En español, ahora enfocándonos más en lo que tiene que ver con lo de los trabajadores internacionales, también lo aconsejable para ellos es que lleguen primero solos y luego traigan a la familia a Canadá. Eso sí, para estos trabajadores internacionales tienen que cumplir como con ciertos requisitos. Uno de esos es que tienen que recibir ya estar trabajando y recibir comprobantes de pago de lo del salario, y ya con esos comprobantes sí la familia podría aplicar para encontrarse en Canadá. Y pues aparte de eso también depende del tipo de nacionalidad, de qué país sea la familia, porque pues con Canadá y con la mayoría de países que tienen esos procesos de migración, tristemente pues la nacionalidad sí importa. Entonces es como un aspecto que también hay que considerar, la nacionalidad, y pues también otros aspectos como la edad, los fondos financieros y lo que siempre se ha estado hablando cuando se va a realizar alguna aplicación.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Let's talk about spousal open work permit processing time. So many people, I know Anil is there, of course, Anil, waiting for a spousal open work permit to be processed overseas for so long, right? What is the standard processing time? This is the $1 million question. If you're in Latin America, Central South America, the processing times are pretty good, right? It could be between 2 months to 3 months. That's the standard time. If you're from India or GCC, GCC being Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, or even Egypt, the spousal open work permit processing times are significantly longer. If you've been waiting for more than 10 months, I would say withdraw, reapply. It should not take 10 months unless there's an eligibility problem, right? If you're applying from certain countries like Africa and Nigeria or Ghana, again, it could be much longer than Central. So Europe, Central, and South America have the best processing times right now. And I mean, obviously compared to Japan or other places, I'm not comparing, but the significant volume of applicants that we look at are Central, South America, Asia, whether China, India, Philippines, Vietnam, and Africa and Middle East. Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, very slow. But if you've been waiting for 10 months, 9 months, that's ridiculous. You withdraw and you reapply. Okay, and make sure you include your existing spouse or partner's documentation from inside of Canada. They're studying full-time, transcripts, enrollments, or they're working full-time. Knock 0 A or B, pay slips. So if you're not if your spouse or partner is in Canada and they're not working in a NOC 0A or B, then you are not eligible as their spouse or partner to come here with a work permit. You can come here as a visitor visa, but you cannot come here and apply from outside or inside of Canada. Those are very important points to consider. And Laura, go ahead in Spanish version.
Enfocándonos más acerca ahora de los tiempos de procesamiento del permiso de trabajo para pareja. Entonces, lo que son países como, o lugares como Latinoamérica, Europa, más o menos el tiempo de espera de esta aplicación suele ser de 2 a 3 meses. Ya los países del Medio Oriente como India, Irán, Qatar, tienen un proceso de espera, un tiempo de espera muchísimo más largo que los países de Latinoamérica, y lo mismo con África, Nigeria y estos países de este continente. Entonces, más que todo, los que tienen más, o las que tienen más posibilidades de tener una respuesta rápida son Latinoamérica y Europa. Así vendría siendo como más o menos los tiempos de procesamiento. También es importante tener en cuenta que cuando en este permiso de trabajo abierto, pues está para estudiante y para si la pareja es estudiante o si la pareja ya tiene un trabajo. Entonces, sí, en el caso de que la pareja tenga un trabajo, ese trabajo tiene que ser en un NOC 0A o B. Si están en esos NOCs, ya sí se puede aplicar para el permiso de trabajo abierto para el compañero de esa persona. Entonces, es algo que se tiene que considerar el NOC también.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. So, what are the advantages of a spousal open work permit? Obviously, many people know. So, if you have a partner or spouse that is eligible for a spousal open work permit, then obviously it's an open work permit. They can come and work while you study or work, right? You can also bring your children, dependents under the age of 22, that can attend public elementary and high school for free if you, as a principal applicant, are working or studying full-time. Okay? And even if you're doing a pathway in a college, potentially your children can apply to go to public or elementary school for free. That's a huge advantage, right? But remember, everything depends on the principal applicant, whether from outside of Canada or from inside. If you don't meet the eligibility as the principal applicant, your dependents, your family members cannot apply or will be refused. So that is the core foundation of the family applying as a family or applying for your family if you're already or planning to become a worker here or a student. And those are obviously huge advantages that the Canadian government gives to your family members to come and work with an open work permit based on your status inside of Canada, and your children to study for free. But remember, if you're on an open work permit or you're a student, your children cannot go to college or university for free. You'd have to pay the international student fee. And tune in into our future videos where we will tell you how to save money and pay Canadian tuition fees in the best universities in Canada. And that'll be a future video. So let's get into the Spanish version, Laura.
Yeah,
Take us
okay.
there.
Ok, entonces, sí, continuando sobre lo del permiso de trabajo para pareja, ya saben que este se puede conseguir si el aplicante principal se encuentra trabajando o estudiando a tiempo completo. Y adicionalmente esto también se puede traer a los niños, y estos niños pueden, obviamente si son menores de edad, pueden aplicar a un colegio de forma gratuita, pero todo esto depende del aplicante principal. Si el aplicante no cumple con esa elegibilidad o no tiene un buen perfil, el aplicante principal, probablemente la familia vaya a recibir un rechazo o no vaya a recibir una respuesta muy buena, que digamos. Entonces, siempre va a depender de ese aplicante principal. Y ya más adelante, en un próximo video, estaremos hablando de un tema muy importante, y es para todas las familias o los niños que vayan a estudiar en algún colegio o universidad, y cómo hacer que estos niños puedan pagar tarifas canadienses y no las tarifas internacionales. Va a ser uno de nuestros próximos videos.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. And I have to break protocol today, so I do apologize. Usually we go through the subject and we go into the question answer in order. I have to break protocol today because I saw a question by Danilo Guedes. Very good question, and thank you for bringing this up. Does this process also include the co-op program for a work permit? Excellent question, Danilo, and that's why I had to break protocol today. Yeah, so the co-op work permit is unrelated to this. Your co-op work permit is 100% linked to your study permit. It has nothing to do with your family members. And if you are doing a co-op, that means you're still studying, which means your spouse or partner is eligible for a spousal open work permit during that time as well. And your children, if you have children, can also study. So the co-op work permit, consider it as part of your study permit. It is not for after graduation. It is not for before you start. And it's the same as being an international student, full-time international student. So yes, your family members are eligible, but you don't need to do anything specific. It's as if you still have a study permit, because the co-op work permit is within the time limit of your study permit. So it's embedded within that time limit. So it's not looked at separately, although it's issued separately. It's 100% linked to your study permit. Excellent question, Danilo. If I had $1 million, I would write you a check right now. So let's do that in Spanish, Laura.
Sure. Tenemos una pregunta, por lo general no solemos responder las preguntas hasta terminar cómo explicar este tema, pero hay una pregunta relacionada y que es muy interesante, y es de Danilo Guedes. Él está diciendo si este proceso incluye también, el programa co-op también está incluido en este proceso para un permiso de trabajo. Y la respuesta es que sí. Porque un programa co-op es aquel que mientras está estudiando le permite trabajar dentro de ese mismo programa como prácticas, por así decirlo, y ese perfil de la persona es que sigue estudiando, sigue siendo un estudiante internacional, solamente que el programa es un co-op. Entonces, como es un estudiante internacional, la pareja sí es elegible durante este tiempo para poder aplicar al permiso de trabajo abierto, y también los niños van a poder estudiar durante ese tiempo, porque pues esa persona sigue estudiando.
Perfect, Laura. Thank you. Should you apply for a visitor visa together with all your family coming to Canada? That's the next question. And that's also dependent on your nationality, on your travel history, on your financial and ties to home country. There is no one rule for every nationality for Canadian immigration. There's discrimination, of course, right? So if you're from these high refusal countries and you have a family of 5-6 people, children, this, if you don't have Canadian travel history, European or valid US visa or other travel history, then forget it. Do not apply altogether, because that will increase your chances of refusal. But if you're from countries that are visa exempt, well, you don't need to apply. You just all come with an ETA, electronic travel authorization, right? And the best thing with visa exempt countries is you, as a principal applicant, have a work permit or study permit to come in. Well, the rest of your family just comes in on ETAs, and you can apply from inside of Canada as well. That's a huge advantage. But again, remember, I'm talking to applicants from Central, South America, and Europe. We would say be careful applying on a visitor visa altogether, especially if you have a large family and you don't have good travel history. And if you're coming from countries from India and Africa, Middle East and Southeast Asia, again, you have to be extra cautious and split it up. Maybe 1 or 2 of you apply for it, and then the rest afterwards. If you don't have excellent travel history, existing US or Canadian or EU, like UK visa, and your financial and work ties, employment ties to your home country are weak. So that's our advice on visitor visas. It all depends where you're coming from, what your nationality, your passport, and your residency is. So we'll cover that in Spanish, and then right after, we're gonna do a preview of our upcoming videos, and then we'll go into the question comment section. Thank you, Laura.
Ok. Y ya para ir terminando sobre este tema, ¿se puede llevar a la familia a Canadá por medio de la visa visitante? Entonces, para responder esa pregunta se tiene que tener en cuenta los siguientes aspectos o criterios, y es que depende del país, lastimosamente siempre es dependiendo de la nacionalidad, es uno de los aspectos, porque hay nacionalidades que tienen más tasa de rechazo que otras. También está el historial de viajes. Si esa persona ha viajado a varias partes del mundo y ya tiene un buen historial de viajes, va a ser muchísimo más positiva la aplicación. Y si se tiene alguna visa americana, del Reino Unido o de estos países, también puede servir. Entonces, si se tiene todos estos, pues sí se puede aplicar sin ningún problema juntos. Adicionalmente, también hay países que no necesitan de tener una visa para poder viajar a Canadá, ya pueden entrar solamente con el ETA, y eso es una muy buena ventaja, no solamente como para la visa de turismo porque no la necesitan, sino también si hay un estudiante o una persona que quiera ir a Canadá con su familia, pero pues esa persona sea un estudiante internacional, entonces puede aplicar él solo para el permiso de estudio, mientras que los demás pueden acompañarlo con la visa de turismo. Entonces es una ventaja para estos países, pero para los países que no tienen esa ventaja, si no hay un historial de viajes o alguna visa o no se tienen las finanzas, toca tener muchísimo cuidado si se va a hacer una aplicación junta. Países como de Latinoamérica, de África, del Medio Oriente, más que todo, pues todas estas regiones.
Thank you, Laura. And I know what everybody's thinking. They're wondering, I should learn Spanish too. Well, I was thinking the same thing. If you are concerned about spousal open work permits, refer to our last week's Thursday video on predictions on the 2022, because we believe spousal open work permits from outside of Canada for certain regions will become more difficult, and there will be more policies implemented to keep it difficult throughout until the end of 2022. So let's look at next week's video. Will be about saving money for your children's university college degree. Imagine your children are very smart. They're going to go to the top universities in Canada. You know how much of an international student fee you have to pay? 25, 30, 40, even University of Toronto, it's $50,000 a year. Times 4 years for a bachelor's, that's $200,000. Well, that's nothing, right? Of course not. That's huge. But if you come here on the right status, you can be paying 1/5 of that in international student fees for your dependents under the age of 22 who will attend college, university. Tune in for next Thursday, and that's what we're going to be discussing. And you can explain that to our viewers in Spanish, Laura, and then we'll get into question and answer.
Okay. Para nuestro próximo video ya de la otra semana, que vamos a estar hablando, es un tema muy interesante, la verdad, porque vamos a mostrar o explicar cómo se puede ahorrar dinero, o cómo los hijos pueden ahorrar dinero en cierta forma para el colegio o la universidad, porque existen formas de que la persona que vaya a estudiar no tenga que pagar las tarifas internacionales de los colleges, que son elevados de cierta forma porque son $20,000, $40,000 y $50,000 canadienses al año, dependiendo del programa y college. Entonces estarían ahorrándose todo ese dinero porque no estarían aplicando por medio de tarifas internacionales, sino por medio de tarifas canadienses, que ya serían como $1,000, $2,000 el año. Entonces ya sería muchísimo menos esa cantidad, así que vamos a estar hablando de eso en temas futuros y en videos futuros.
Thank you, Laura. Perfect. As I said, everyone, we need to take Spanish courses. Let's jump into the question answer. Perfect. Ready, Laura?
Yeah, ready.
So Nasreen says, hi, Reza, Laura. Hi, Nasreen.
Hi.
T-Nick Queen says, hi, Reza, Laura. Thank you, T-Nick Queen, for tuning in today. Hi back, both from Colombia and from Toronto. Gwaram Chaudhry says, hi, Reza. Hi back, Gwaram. So he has a question. Good question, actually. I want to ask, what will be the refusal rate for student visa, student direct stream category from India, and the processing time for visa applications from my intake? Great questions, Gautam. Student direct stream approval rates are 90% plus in most cases from India. If you're a mature student and you have a big educational gap from your latest graduation and your ties to your home country in terms of employment and assets and family are weak, then yes, there's a higher chance of refusal. But if you're young, you just graduated, let's say from any post-secondary education, you are eligible for student direct stream, you've got some ties to your home country, you're looking at a 90% plus approval rate as long as you don't have other refusals for other countries, whether it's Canada, Australia, Europe, UK, and America. So it's a good question, and I think, Laura, because the student direct stream was introduced the second half of 2021 in South and Central America, like Colombia, right, Brazil, Peru, and some Caribbean countries, it would also be good to explain that to our Spanish viewers.
Sure. Okay, I think that too. Nuestros comentarios ya estamos empezando a leerlos. Si tienen alguna pregunta en español pueden realizarla. Y tenemos un comentario de Gautam Chaudhary. Él está diciendo que cuál sería la tasa de rechazo para la categoría de visa de SDS, que es Student Direct Stream. Porque cuando uno aplica a un permiso de estudio hay varias posibilidades, entre esas está el Student Direct Stream, y esta es como una forma más directa y más rápida de conseguir respuesta. Entonces, ¿cuál sería la tasa de rechazo? De hecho, es muy mínima esa tasa de rechazo. Por lo general, las personas que aplican por medio de este programa o de esta opción tienen el 99% de posibilidad de recibir una aceptación, pero ya depende del perfil, porque si el perfil de la persona es una persona mayor que tiene una brecha de educación bastante grande y no tiene en cierta forma vínculos con el país de origen, de residencia, si las tasas de rechazo van a cambiar y si van a empezar a ser más altas. Entonces, ya depende de eso, pero por lo general, este programa es muy buena opción y las respuestas y los tiempos de procesamiento son muchísimo más rápidos.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Anil Reddy Chef. Hi, Reza. So Anil is one of our frequent subscribers and viewers. Great to see you, Anil Reddy Chef. He's asking how we're doing. Well, I'm okay. Laura, how are you?
I'm okay too.
Good, good. He's asking if there's any updates about IRCC processing. No, they're behind in the first half of this year. I don't expect any updates in terms of faster processing or better processing, right? So that's important to note. Danilo Guedes says, hi, Reza and Laura. Yes, we know Daniel because I believe that was the good comment or question he had. Bancole Adeola 777. Good afternoon, bro. Good afternoon, Bancole. Thanks for joining us. Anil Reddy Chef says it's already been 4 months from my spousal open work permit. So that's a good question and comment, actually. So we're going to discuss if you've applied for a spousal open work permit like Anil and it's been 4 months, that's fine. If you're from India, subcontinent, Middle East, it can take 4 or 5 months. Easy. But if you're at the 7, 8, 9 month period, forget it. Withdraw and reapply if your principal applicant inside of Canada meets the eligibility. From South and Central America, I would expect 2 to 3.5 months maximum. From India and GCC, which is a significant part of the Middle East, and also the rest of the non-GCC Middle East, I would expect at least a 4-month period. Although we have had cases where about 2.5, 3 months they were processed, but you should be ready up to 5 months. I believe in Israel, the processing time is even faster though, compared to some other regions in the Middle East. So that's an important point. Laura, if you can also explain that in Spanish to our viewers. And we
Sure. Okay. Resumiéndonos un poco lo que está diciendo Reza, un comentario de Anil es que él ha estado esperando bastante tiempo por el permiso de trabajo para pareja, ha estado esperando 4 meses y este tiempo de espera ya depende de cada nacionalidad, de cada país. Normalmente el tiempo de espera suele ser de 3 a 4 meses en Latinoamérica, pero para países ya en Europa, bueno, en Europa no, sino en África y en estos países, suele ser un tiempo muchísimo mayor, 5 meses, 6 meses. Ya si hay una aplicación que lleva esperando más de 8 o 9 meses, lo más probable es que tenga que retirar esa aplicación y volver a reaplicar porque ya es muchísimo tiempo de espera.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. So let's move on. And we see Gaurav Vartak says he's got a good question. Hi, I applied for a work permit in December 2020 with an LMIA and biometrics. Should I reapply or wait till it's been more than a year? Holy cow, Gaurav. It's too long. Withdraw, reapply immediately. And your LMIA, by the way, is not valid anymore. So that again creates the problem that you cannot reapply. It's like a double-edged sword. So you need to ask your employer in Canada to push through the Member of Parliament office. Because if it was any other kind of work permit, I would have said reapply. But if it's an LMIA, your LMIA expired probably sometime in 2021. And you cannot reapply. So you're stuck. You need support from Canada to push your employer, your people in Canada. They need to push for you. That's the only thing you can literally do unless your employer is, getting a new LMIA. So Laura, if you can also explain that, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Otro comentario que tenemos aquí en nuestro canal de YouTube, realizado también por Gaurav Vartak, es que él aplicó al permiso de trabajo, solicitó un permiso de trabajo en diciembre del 2020 con el LMIA y está preguntando si debería volver a presentar una solicitud o esperar. Y en este caso lo mejor es esperar, porque volver a reaplicar con un LMIA es un proceso mucho más complicado, más difícil y tendría que esperar igualmente bastante. Entonces lo mejor en este caso es seguir esperando, aún así ya haya pasado bastante tiempo.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Laura. So let's look at some of the other comments. Anil clapping and thanking. Thank you, Anil, for the support. And Danilo, we've already answered the question. Bankole Adeola 777. And he's saying, please, can you tell me what is going on now? I have travel experience, and I spent 3 years in Dubai with permanent residence. So that's a good question, Bankole. Actually, because I'm going to explain this. So what does travel history mean? That's the question, basically. So if you travel to Dubai or anywhere in the Middle East, typically, that's not travel history. If you travel to Africa, if you travel in South or Central America, if you travel to Southeast Asia or Asia, that is not considered travel history. Where do they consider travel history? Australia, New Zealand, Europe, UK, Canada, US, a little bit in Japan as well. Countries which accept asylum seekers. If you travel to Dubai, that is not considered travel history that will affect your application positively. Okay? So that's what the question is, Bankole. And just to let you know, that travel history that you're talking about would not be helping your application in any way. So Laura, go ahead with the Spanish version.
Yeah, I think that is an important information. Otra pregunta que nos están realizando desde Banco Adiola y él está preguntando que cuando se habla de experiencia de viaje, pues que él viajó a Dubái y pasó 3 años en Dubái, entonces que si eso está bien. Y algo que tenemos que tener en cuenta cuando estamos hablando de historial de viajes es que viajar a otro país no necesariamente se considera como un buen historial de viajes. ¿Cuándo o cuáles son los países que sí pueden aportar positivamente a la aplicación? Son países como Australia, Nueva Zelanda, Reino Unido, Estados Unidos, Europa más que todo, y todos estos países que se requiere aplicar una visa y hacer un proceso como más complicado y todo. Entonces, esos países son los que se consideran como un buen historial de viajes.
Perfect, thank you, Laura. So Gaurav Vartak, thanks. You mentioned you applied for a work permit. We've answered that. and you've thanked us at the end. Thank you, Gaurav. Unfortunately, you're in a very difficult situation now with your LMI being expired, but you've applied and it's over a year. It should not take a year. There's something wrong. Please follow up with your contacts in Canada. Tina is asking, Tina Odinia. By the way, everyone, nobody's pressing the like button. We need people to become a little bit more proactive in this video. Press the like button so we know you guys are watching. Tina Odinia is saying, do you help eligible candidates get job offers and visa processing? Job offers, it's not something that we offer. We have employers sometimes that advertise their jobs and candidates can apply, but it's not something that we actually provide you a job based on some kind of agreement. That is not allowed here in Canada. And Danilo Guedes enjoyed our response to him, right? No problem. So let's like Gaurav, we've already responded, right? What we did, okay, yeah, so a lot of these are repetitive questions. So we've got another one. Great question. Lucia Flores. Hi Reza and Laura. I'm applying for my inland sponsorship. Can my daughter come when they approve my open work permit, or she needs to wait until they approve our residency? So Lucia, great question. If you're applying for inland spousal sponsorship, that has to do with your PR and your work permit. If your daughter is overseas, you can potentially apply for a visitor visa for her to come. She won't be able to study in Canada until your work permit is approved, as you already know. But if you wait for your work permit, that might take as long as your PR, 8 months, 10 months, sometimes longer. So if you want to reunite with your daughter, I would say apply for a visitor visa and have them come in because you know the long processing time. So the application you would have to do is that, hey, we've applied for inland spousal and work permit, but I'm not going to wait for a year for my daughter to see my daughter, right? So you're going to ask the embassy to take that into consideration for the long processing times. So they will issue a visitor visa so you can be reunited temporarily and she'll go back. So it has to be a very well done application, Lucia, but it is possible what I just explained. And Laura, would you like to explain that to our Spanish viewers?
Yeah, I can explain it fast. Otra pregunta de Lucía Flores nos está preguntando y nos está diciendo que está solicitando como el patrocinio pues ya dentro de Canadá y que si su hija puede venir cuando aprueben su permiso de trabajo abierto o necesita esperar hasta que aprueben la residencia. Y en este caso, Lucía, o bueno, las personas de habla hispana que nos estén viendo, el permiso de trabajo, esperarlo puede ser bastante tiempo, puede que tenga que esperar bastante tiempo por el permiso de trabajo o la residencia en este caso. Así que si se quieren reunir, lo ideal sería aplicar con una visa de turismo porque normalmente la respuesta se demora 8 o 9 meses, así que para reunirse lo mejor es la visa de turismo y que puedan estar juntos y no esperar bastante tiempo, porque si la respuesta ya sea para el permiso de trabajo o para lo de la residencia es prácticamente al mismo tiempo que responden y el tiempo es bastante largo.
Thanks, Laura. So thanks for the likes, everyone. Keep on liking when I call out your names. There's a Spanish question out there, Lisantropo 78.
Yes.
So is it something we can answer, Laura?
Yes, I will say you.
Okay, so why don't we do it in Spanish? Well, just tell me it in English and then I'll answer it and then you can answer it in Spanish.
Yes. So he is saying hi, and he started the question like that. Entering in a master in Atlantic provinces, you can apply for residency until the end of the master, or my wife will be able to do some process with your work.
Well, it's a great question. Is that if you study for a master's degree in the Atlantic provinces, can you apply for direct permanent residency? Right, Laura? That's the question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And regarding his wife, is whether she can also continue doing what? The work permit or just PR, you mean?
No, she's asking if the wife is able to do some process, or if she has to do some process too.
Okay, so in the Atlantic, the only province in the Atlantic that allows you to apply for direct permanent residency after you graduate from a postgraduate level like master's or PhD is Newfoundland. So Nova Scotia, New Brunswick do not have specific streams for direct PR for master's graduates. Newfoundland, Ontario, and BC have those programs. So keep that in mind. If you study for a master's in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, or Prince Edward Island, you will get a postgraduate work permit. Then you need, to look at the PNP job offers, skilled immigration streams, or the federal programs, or the Atlantic immigration programs. So those are the only things that you will have available to you unless you go to Newfoundland. There's 1 or 2 universities eligible, and the subjects are very specific. So if you study in those departments or subjects, you could be eligible. But if you're studying something else, again, even Newfoundland would not make you eligible for direct PR. So go ahead in Spanish, Laura.
Sure. Hola Alvaradejo, ¿cómo estás? Estás realizando la siguiente pregunta de, bueno, ¿qué tal compañeros? Entrando a un máster en las provincias del Atlántico, ¿se puede aplicar a la residencia hasta el fin de la maestría, o mi esposa podrá hacer algún proceso con su trabajo? Cuando son maestrías, hay algunas provincias que tienen un programa de residencia permanente directa, que son Newfoundland, Ontario y British Columbia. Luego de terminar la maestría se puede aplicar directamente a estos programas para conseguir la residencia, pero hay las otras provincias del Atlántico, como New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, no tienen este programa de tan solo terminar la maestría se puede aplicar a la residencia. En este caso sería aplicar a un permiso de trabajo, y ese permiso de trabajo, ya después de conseguir experiencia, pues ya hay programas de nominación provincial, y estos programas sí suelen dar puntos para maestría, pero pues entre las provincias que sí tienen un programa directo de residencia permanente están Newfoundland, Ontario y British Columbia.
Perfect. So we missed one question from Bancole. Thanks for reminding us, Bancole. At the top, it was it's a good question. He's saying, any update about visitor visa processing? I resubmitted my visitor visa application from Nigeria since October 2021. Up to today, I have not received any response or decision. Great question, Bancole. Basically, if you applied and you had your vaccination and you had the proof of why you want to travel to Canada in terms of maybe ties to Canada, whether you have a family member here studying, working, or some Canadian family members, then they would have processed your application quite quickly. The fact that they haven't, they consider it as a low priority, unless there's a mistake in the application and you do have ties to Canada, right? If it's just a general, I want to come and see Niagara Falls or visit somebody or attend a conference, it might take longer. They're prioritizing applications on visitor visas, and I think that's a good question. We do see that in certain applicants who do have valid U.S. visas from Central and South America, they get their visas approved within 3 to 4 weeks, right? The visitor visas, Laura?
Yeah, right.
And so we'll go on further, and we've got one more question. Lisandro Tropa says, okay, thanks, PGWP, it is. Yes, it is. So one last question before we sign off. This is a great question. It's from Chinierugo Ebube. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The question is, hi Reza and Laura, hoping you're doing good, thank you. What is the proof of funds breakdown for a family of 5 with the principal applicant's tuition of $18,000? Please help me walk me through it. Great. So the principal applicant needs the tuition for the first year, right? plus the minimum living expenses outside of Quebec of $10,000, right? Then for every additional member you need, so you have 4 additional members, right? So you need additional funds. So what we're gonna do, so basically you Google IRCC, minimum funds study permit, and you'll get the chart. It's easy, right? It's very easy. Proof of financial support. It's every first family member 4,000, additional family members 3,000. So let's walk you through it. You are 10,000. Your spouse will be 4,000 per year. Then you've got 3 more members of your family, which are dependent children under the age of 22, will be 3,000, 3,000, 3,000. So let's add that up. And good thing is, I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics and statistics. So we're going to do 10, 14, 17, 20, 23. So 23,000 is your minimum settlement funds to live in Canada outside of Quebec, and plus $18,000 for your first year tuition. And remember, Chinyere Rugo, this is the bare minimum. So never go with the bare minimum unless you have a valid Canadian or US visa. Never go with the bare minimum, depending on your nationality and country of residence or where you're applying. If you show significantly more, great. Because what's going to happen is when you apply, they'll be like, well, you're employed now, you're bringing your whole family, and you're not going to be employed while you're studying in Canada, and then your money, you bring your whole family, nobody's going to be employed, so what's going to happen? You have to consider these points if you're from a high refusal country, and if you don't have valid US or Canadian visitor visas. So let's explain that in Spanish, and then we'll sign off, Laura.
Ok, sure. Otra pregunta que tenemos en nuestros comentarios de YouTube es de Chinjereugo EV, no sé pronunciarlo, me disculparán. Y él está preguntando que cuánto sería la cantidad de fondos que se deberían demostrar para una familia de 5, incluyendo también los $18,000 de la matrícula. Entonces, normalmente, para los aplicantes que van a ir en familia, esto tiene que tener unos fondos mínimos. Primero, para el aplicante principal, son $10,000 canadienses que se tienen que demostrar del año. Adicionalmente a esos $10,000 canadienses, por la pareja se tiene que demostrar $4,000, ahí van $14,000. Y por cada aplicante adicional, hijos más que todo, serían $3,000. Entonces, $10,000 aplicante principal, $4,000 la pareja y $3,000 el hijo. Entonces, si son una familia de 5, en total tendrían $14,000, $17,000, $23,000 canadienses, y a esto se le sumaría lo de la matrícula del año. Entonces, eso es más o menos lo de la cantidad de fondos que se deberían demostrar cuando es una familia, pero eso sí, importantísimo, nunca se debería demostrar el mínimo. O sea, si el mínimo es esa cantidad, no se debería mostrar esto, sino muchísimo más, porque eso va a fortalecer la aplicación. Si se tiene el mínimo, pero si se tiene la visa americana o la visa canadiense o algo por el estilo, ya hay más posibilidad de poder demostrar ese mínimo, pero normalmente se debe demostrar más.
Thanks, Laura. So, last question. Gautam is asking, great question. So this is the last question for the day. I also want to know, what is the education gap accepted after 12, that I have a 3-year gap? Okay, so I don't know what you mean by 12, Gautam, but a 3-year gap is acceptable as long as you show what you were doing with that 3 years. IRCC's official policy is 6 years is the maximum gap before you really start getting refusals. But the lower the gap between your latest graduation and your application for a study permit will increase your chances. So 3-year gap is manageable, it's fine. You just have to make sure that you were doing something in those 3 years. For 8 months, no reply. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that for 8 months you haven't received a reply, Gautam. Well, yeah, you have to show that you're still busy. You can't wait for 1 or 2 years for a visa processing decision. but make sure that you're keeping yourself busy in that gap. So it's a great question. Thank you. And Laura, let's do that in Spanish and then sign off.
Sure. Teniendo ya nuestra última pregunta, nos están preguntando que cuánta es la cantidad de brecha de educación que se tiene que tener en cuenta de cierta forma. Le está preguntando que él tiene una brecha de 3 años de educación y pues las brechas, si se tiene en cierta forma cómo demostrar qué ha hecho en ese tiempo, pues es algo positivo que se demuestre. Y de 3 años no suele ser una brecha muy grande. Ya las brechas más grandes son más de 5 años, 6 años, pero de 3 años si se demuestra que ha estado haciendo, trabajando o algo por el estilo, no habría ningún problema.
Thanks, Laura. So Bancola says, thank you. I applied for a visitor conference. Yes, that's why they're lowering your priority, Bancola, and your nationality and your residency. That's also affecting. Chinyerugo, thanks. Laura and Reza, thank you for the supportive comments. Press like if you're happy with the answers. And Brenda says, good morning, Reza and Laura. Brenda, unfortunately, you tuned in a little bit too late. We're signing off. We'll be back here next Tuesday and Thursday. If you're Jamaican and the family members have visitor visas and I'm applying for a study permit, what are the official document? Okay, interesting. Should we answer that, Laura?
I think that yes.
Okay. So let's do the last question then, Brenda. You came in last minute, but yeah, we'll answer. Why not? We like.
But first, press like button in YouTube channel.
Yeah, press the like button. We like Jamaica. You know, a lot of my best friends are from Jamaica. I went to school with a lot of people from the Caribbean. So let's answer that. So the question is, what are the ODS, basically the procedures and the documents if you're Jamaican and the family members have visitor visas and I'm applying for a study permit? Okay, you're applying for a study permit, your family members have a visitor visa, so all you do is you apply for a study permit separately. When you get a decision and hopefully it's an approval, then they just join you and come, and then you can apply from inside of Canada. So you will come in with a study permit, they can join you with the visitor visa they already have, and then if you want to convert them to a study permit, work permit, do it from inside of Canada. Typically much higher approval rates. So let's do that in Spanish, and that was the absolute last question today, Laura.
Okay. Una pregunta que llegó a última hora de Brenda. Ella nos está diciendo que cuáles son las posibilidades y bueno, ella es de Jamaica y toda los miembros de su familia tienen una visa de visitante y ella está solicitando un permiso de estudio. En ese caso ella aplicaría sola y pues ya si reciben exitosamente pues la aprobación del permiso de estudio, pues ya podrían viajar todos juntos, pero pues prácticamente ella estaría realizando una aplicación sola.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura, and thanks everyone. Lisantropo thanks us as well. Thank you, Laura, from Colombia.
Thank you, Reza.
And yeah, thanks for everyone for watching. Thank you for supporting us, and tune in next week for our video about how to save over $200,000 in 4 years if you want to send your child to the University of Toronto. Or plus minus over $100,000 if you want your child to study at Ryerson or University of York or other universities at a Canadian tuition price. That's gonna be our next Thursday video, so tune in. It'll be me and Laura, and next Tuesday it'll be my colleague Carolina, and I believe they're gonna be doing the worst mistakes, or they're gonna be doing a guide on study plans for international students. And that'll be great because Carolina has done probably over 100 study plans with an over a 95% approval rate. So thanks, Laura. Appreciate it. We'll see you everyone next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe to our channel. Take care, everyone. Happy Lunar New Year. And wherever you are, whether it's evening, morning, afternoon, or midnight, take care of yourself. Right, Laura?
Yeah, take care of yourself and thank you very much. Bye bye. See you the next week.
Thanks. Bye bye. Bye bye.